you want, what you want.
Hello, troublemakers out there. I'm Matt Catling, and this is the next disruption session where we interview the biggest troublemakers we can find. We answer your questions to help you get disruptive in life and business. Now, let's get started. Hello, troublemakers. Matt Catling here again for a disruption session. And today I wanted to talk to you about commitment. If you've been to my events, you will know commitment is the first step of the 5 steps to rapid change. And the 5 steps to rapid change is something I've developed over the last 20 years, looking at who are the people that actually follow through, that do this type of work. And the first step is commitment. Now, if you look at a lot of studies that are coming out at the moment, there's TED Talks on this topic, commitment is kind of the buzzword. And what I mean by that is, if we look at determinants of success, commitment has become the primary thing that we need to look at. And what do we mean by that? Well, to me, commitment is being able to show up. And I say 90% of success is just showing up. And the key to showing up is to show up when you don't feel like it. It's very, very easy to show up when you're feeling confident, passionate, excited, you've got clarity, all of those things. But what happens when you're out of the game? What happens when you're in significant challenge and every part of you feels like giving up, going back to safety, or going back to old patterns that aren't necessarily serving you? And so to me, commitment is something that isn't instant. Commitment is something that we need to work on, ongoing, and we can't zig without zagging. So we can't be perfect all of the time. But what we can do is develop some strategies to be able to get us back into action very, very quickly. We know as coaches that people are going to kind of fall off track. And the normal pattern when it comes to falling off track is this beat up, and that beat up can then kind of go into all of these other specific patterns, whether it be, addictions, binging, all those types of things. So let's look at commitment. And how do we really build commitment into our life? And so to me, commitment is simply this, a decision. A decision to let go of whatever it is that is holding you back and to show up and get onto a new path. And so how do we do this? How do we make that decision? And so a lot of the time I say to people, how you start is often how you finish. A lot of people set goals, and they're really not committed to those goals, and unconsciously they know it. And so they go into the process of setting a goal or an outcome that they want with sometimes an exit strategy. And the exit strategy can be, if I don't achieve this goal, I can go back to what I was always doing. Now, the thing about goals is the bigger the goal that you set, the more chaos you're going to attract. And so if we've set this really, really big long-term goal, that probably means that you're going to get enormous amounts of setback, enormous amounts of challenge. And that challenge kind of breaks you into, you come back together, you're stronger, you're more powerful, your kind of vibration changes, and then you kind of attract the outcomes that you're going through. And so if we look at it from that perspective, the setbacks are the key to grow you or to help you become who you need to be in order to attract those things. So how you start is how you finish. So if we look at commitment and we look at goal setting and we look at the process that we're going into it. And so if we come into a goal, the question I often ask my clients is, what are you willing to endure? Because often when we set a goal, we're in this high emotional, positive state. We're inspired, we're motivated, and that is wonderful. But there is also the other side. And I believe we need to prepare ourselves. And so some of the things that I ask is, what are you willing to endure? What are you willing to go through? If it's a business goal and it's a big objective that you're wanting to achieve, are you willing to work really, really hard? And what I mean by that is are you willing to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and sometimes work 16 plus hours a day? Are you willing to live on baked beans? Are you willing to kind of sacrifice television when all of your friends are, out and doing all of these wonderful things and social opportunities as well? What are you willing to endure? And really get connected to that, and get connected to that up front. And then I look at pain versus pleasure when it comes to commitment. I look at pain and I look at it and go, what happens if you don't show up? What happens if you don't commit to your life or this goal? Where are you going to be in 12 months? Where are you going to be in 3 years, 5 years, 7 years? And I really get kind of a visual, an auditory, a kinesthetic. So I really bring up, what does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? And I really get a person to that place. And I make it so painful that if they don't show up, this is where they're going to go. And the next thing I do is we look at the pleasure. And the pleasure, all these are connected to a why, or something bigger than ourselves. And I look at this and I go, well, if you do show up, this is what life could be like. If we do make these changes, this is where we're going. And I get someone to really jot that down, and I get them to connect to their why so that they're willing to do whatever it takes. And that is what commitment is that decision where you say in some cases, no more. No more. And you've probably experienced this in your life where maybe 2 to 3 times in your life, and you can think about it right now, where you've made a decision like that and you've really, really committed. And often those decisions, if you look at your life, have often preceded something that's really, really negative. Maybe you've gone through a major, major crisis around your relationships, and then you've made a decision, no more. No more will I be treated that way. Or maybe it's around finances. Maybe you've had major, major challenges around your finances. Maybe you're about to go bankrupt, or you've attracted enormous amounts of debt, and then you've got into that point where you've gone, no more. No more am I willing to endure this financial situation. Or maybe it's health. You've attracted a health challenge, maybe you put on weight, disease, and then in that moment it is so painful that you've decided no more. See, the unconscious mind changes with intensity, either intense negativity or intense positivity. And that's one of the reasons that I created Live It Now, is I look at people and they go with the flow. And a lot of the time they're living in this self-induced hypnotic trance, and they think, one day I'm going to be able to have this specific life. One day I'm going to go traveling. One day I'm going to buy that dream home. One day I'm going to have this relationship. But they live in this kind of one day mentality. And also they can have unconscious conversations like, it's not that bad yet. And if you're having those conversations, you realize it's going to get really bad, but you haven't really connected to how challenging it could get. And so that's what I like to do, especially at my Live It Now training. I really like to connect to people to, we only have a certain amount of time left. The stats are we sleep for 30% of our life. You're in a job that you hate. That's almost 60% of your life. The 10% that's left often is, can you believe this? Devices, spent on devices. Like, there's not much time left. And so I look at those crises and I go, those crises are opportunities to wake us up, to ask different questions, because the quality of the questions determine the quality of your life. And as we start to ask different questions, we move in a new direction. And that's what Live It Now is all about, is like shaking people up and going, we don't have much time. It's the decisions that we make that can take our life to the next level. And so my formula for commitment is this, is number one, we want to be able to commit to something. And a lot of people say to me, oh, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want to do with my life. I have no clarity. And that tells me a number of things. A, you're thinking about all of the things that you don't want to have happen in your life. See, we either know what we want or we know what we don't want. And sometimes there's not enough space. So from that perspective, then we've got to start to recondition the thinking and challenge the I don't know and start to think, well, if we did know, what would it be? And start to develop that habit. And as you start to consciously develop that habit of thinking about what you want instead of what you don't want, new information starts to come to the surface. Also, if you're in that situation where you're kind of going, I don't know what I want, we can look at it deeper. And sometimes what it may mean is that you've been on someone else's goal plan. Because let's face it, that's often easy, isn't it? Easier, I should say. Because if someone else can make all of the decisions, then I don't necessarily have to take responsibility in my life. And I can easily blame them because I'm not getting the results. But if I was to make the decision and I don't get the result, well, maybe that could mean ultimate failure. So some people can be very, very lazy when it comes to their decision making and just allow others to make decisions for them. And the challenge is that if someone else is making decisions for you, you're on their goal path. You're not on your future, you're on someone else's future plan. And this is one of the reasons that I created my company, Your Future Now. And I did that because I was that person that was constantly on everyone else's goal plan. And I did it and I thought, I'm making everyone happy. But I was the one that was kind of missing out. And so when it comes to commitment, we've got to commit to something. Now, if you don't know what you want in terms of a goal, what I say to people is commit to being the best version of yourself. And everyone can do that. We can sit down and we can design that, right? And we can go, what is the best version of myself? Well, health would be this. Relationships would be this. My financial situation would be this. And we build that picture and we commit to it. We massively commit to it. And we make that decision. So the first part is we've got to commit to something. And we've got to commit to something that is in the context of your future and something that you want. Ideally, we want to commit to something that has enormous meaning. The more meaning you have, the more committed you will become. The next part is we've got to kind of condition the psychology up front. As I said to you before, how you start, how you finish. And so we've got to look at this and go, okay, this is the best version of myself, or this is the business goal, health goal, relationship goal that we are absolutely committing to. And then we have the conversation, what am I willing to endure? Am I willing to wake up early? Am I willing to let go of things that are not serving me on that path? Am I willing to make this a priority? Allocate time and schedule time over job, over relationships in some cases. Am I willing to make it a priority? Because when you schedule it, it happens. And the next thing we start to look at is pain and pleasure. And so the pain and pleasure is, well, if I don't have this, if I don't achieve this, and I don't do it right now, what's my life going to be like 3, 5, 7 years in the future? And if I do commit to this, what is this going to do for my life long term? And this is, as I said before, we build as much meaning as we possibly can. The next thing that we want to look at is structures create outcomes. We can have a structure of fixing. And a structure of fixing is, well, all I need to do is fix this, fix this, fix this, fix this, then I can have what I want. The structure of creating is where we go out and we create. Instead of getting fit before going to the gym, we actually go and create, and we commit to that creation right now. But what I look at is what is the structure? What do we need to change around your structure, your environment, so you absolutely commit? And this is the analogy of kind of burning the ships. And let's look at that. What if we're really committing to becoming the best version of yourself, if we're really committing to these goals and outcomes that are your future, what would we need to do to be able to ensure follow through, to be able to ensure commitment? And if we were really committed and this was a priority, what would we do? And so what things would you put in place? What things in your environment would it be maybe limiting your time with certain people that you absolutely know are not going to get you there? Would it be going through your cupboard and getting rid of everything that could cause binging or, throw you off track? Could it be locking away finances and putting a structure in place? Could it be getting that personal trainer because in the past you haven't necessarily followed through? Or getting a coach and working on your mindset? Would it be investing money into that area? You've got to think, if you were totally committed, what would you do? And this is some of the things that I teach in my Live It Now training. And I think it is so important. A lot of people, I believe, in life, they think they can do it by themselves, and I think that's wonderful, and you can. But the most successful people are people that have teams of experts, teams of masters around them that will really help them shift. One of the things that I teach is that if you're wanting to improve your health, you got to hang out with 5 people that have 10 times your health. Or you want to improve your business, you want to hang out with people that have 10 times your profits. And you want to hang out with them on a regular basis. And you want to limit the people that aren't necessarily in that situation. And these are the things that are going to help your structure, your environment, support you to the next level. One of the things that I do personally is I get the best coaches on that specific topic. And I work with them, I invest, I show up. I do things that most people don't. Most people that get average results would look at the things that I'm doing and going, that's crazy. Why would he be investing so much money? Or why would he be hanging out with these types of people? Or why has he become, so intense in this specific area? And I'm like, that is what commitment is. And then as I show up and I get the specific results, those people often come back to me later and go, how did you do it? How did you do it? But what most people don't realize is that there is sacrifice. We do have to let go of things to create new things in our life. Self-discipline has often been given such a negative context or thought process. But self-discipline to me is actually freedom. And this is the things, it's the habits, it's the decisions, it's the belief systems in those specific areas that are going to take us to the next level. And so I'd love you to look up all of the research on commitment. To me, commitment is that resilience, the ability to show up over and over and over and over again. If you look at the studies, it used to be IQ was a determinant of success. Then they threw that out. And then they said, in some cases, IQ could be a hindrance to success. Then it was the EQ side. And EQ, the emotional intelligence side, that was the key to success. Now, absolutely, it is a component, especially IQ as well. But is it the determinant? No. Then we've got onto this topic, which I've been teaching for almost 20 years, is this ability to develop your commitment muscle, that resilience, the ability to show up when you've had the biggest setback, the biggest challenge, and every part of you wants to run. But you find that commitment inside of you. You get back into that process and you go, what am I willing to endure? Because you've anchored that. You get connected to, no way am I heading in this direction. No way am I going to experience this pain. And then you get connected back to your why, the pleasure, the connection. And as I said to you, sometimes when you're stuck in it, it's really, really hard to do this. But that's why you have an incredible coach. That's why you have an amazing team that supports you, that helps you with your mindset, that gets you back into present time, that gets you connected to that why again and helps you show up. Remember, we are going to switch off, we are going to sabotage, we are going to do those things, especially if the goal is a little bit bigger. But the key is developing the structure internally and externally to be able to get us back into action very, very quickly. In fact, in the fastest possible time frame. And the more you do this stuff, what's really exciting, everybody, is you're going to get back into present time or back onto your future a whole lot faster. I've got so many examples of working with clients with this. One example was this guy that I was working with in Melbourne. And he sat down with me and we set this goal and we did the traditional SMART goal setting process. And his objective was he wanted to build 40 clients in his consulting business that would have returned about 120K. And it was over a 12-month period. And we set this goal. And I was looking at his sensory acuity, and what I mean by that, I was looking across at his body language, his breathing, his tonality, and I really got that he wasn't committed. And so one of the things is that I know that 93% of communication is nonverbal, and so I challenged him on it, and I said, let's stop for a second. Tell me the truth. How do you really feel about this goal? And he said, to be honest, Matt. And by the way, when someone says to be honest, that typically means they've been lying to you up to this point. He said to me, to be honest, Matt, it feels like a lot of work. Now, in that moment, I knew we were going to have troubles in the process of working with this goal long term. And so I said to him, what we need to do is create more meaning in this. We need to connect you to the must. We need to make this have so much meaning that you'd be willing to jump up at 4:30 in the morning to take action. And so I said to him, tell me why this is important. What would inspire you? What would motivate you? And I just kept cycling that question. What would inspire you? What would motivate you? What would inspire you? What would motivate you? And then suddenly he started to cry. And he said to me, Matt, well, what would really, really inspire me is that if I could move to Sydney and I could be with my son and I could spend as much time as I want with him and I could be the father that I've always wanted to be. In fact, I could be better than my father was to me. And he bawled his eyes out and his whole body changed. And so the goal started to change because we started to add more meaning to it. And the goal was to be a father, to be the best father that he could possibly be. And the secondary component was the business. And so this was a 12-month plan. He went out and he achieved that goal in 90 days. Now, why? And the reason is because we created so much meaning that he was willing to commit. He was willing to endure any pain. He was willing to show up, no matter the obstacle. We got rid of the exit strategy. We burnt the boats, and we went for it. And so commitment isn't something that comes to you. Commitment is something that we need to condition everybody. And this is what I'd love to help you do. This is why I run Live It Now. Because I believe that if we don't make these decisions now, we can miss out. We can miss out on so many opportunities that life has available to us right now when we become present. Please don't think you've got to do it alone. I think that is the biggest mistake. Often I find that people are going through a significant challenge, then they ask for help when they're going through a crisis, or people that are incredibly successful, they have teams because they realise the team is the key to produce more. It's the people in the middle that are going with the flow and they know they can do more, they know that you can be more. And they go, I'll get to it later, or I can just do it myself, and why would I invest in myself? And I sit there going, wow, if you only realised your potential. And often it's only that little flick of a switch where suddenly everything changes and you show up. And for me, my whole life, I was labelled with learning disorder, or the first part of my life, I should say, I was labelled with learning disorders. I suffered, emotional challenges like anxiety, bullying, all these things. A lot of you have heard this story before. If I didn't get support, I probably would have just had an average to mediocre life on someone else's goal plan, in a job I hated. Slowly but surely, bit by bit, that spark inside of me dying. And so I want to help people change that because it's not taught at school, this stuff, and it should be. And maybe one day it will, especially with my mission with the Institute of Behavioural Science. But I run Live It Now to help you awaken that spark, to connect you with a community that will hold you to a higher standard, And I want to share with you the most advanced information on human performance that we have available today that most people don't have access to. And I share this and live it now. And I run it basically for free because I believe everyone should have access to this information. I just ask that you make a donation to Bear Cottage, and I use Bear Cottage as a charity because when we look at these kids, they've got one goal in life, which is to live. Bear Cottage is one of only 2 children's hospices in this country, and basically the criteria for these kids is that they will not live into their adult life. And when I went for a tour, I had such an incredibly emotional experience there because they had these rooms that are temperature controlled. And they call them the butterfly rooms, and basically these kids go there to pass away. And I walked through, and 3 of these rooms had the butterfly light on, which meant 3 of the kids had passed away. And I remember I stopped and I started to cry. And in that moment I said, this is a charity that I want to support because it had so much meaning to me. And the meaning was that these kids have one goal in life, which is to live it now. And under those types of challenges, it's not about money, it's about relationships. It's about one more day with the people that I love the most, or one more day without pain. And I thought, what an incredible metaphor that is. What an incredible symbol. Because when I run these events and I'm talking to people, and I look across at the audience and I see so much potential. And I think of these kids that would commit and show up and do whatever it takes just for a day without pain. And I look at the audience and I think, so much possibility, but often stuck in learned helplessness, conditioned pessimism. Yet we have so many opportunities to live right now. There are quantum possibilities to change your life and have everything that you want right now, but there's also quantum possibilities not to. And every time it comes down to our mindset, because when we can switch that mindset on, we suddenly start to see the opportunities that we previously were deleting. And so this is one of the reasons, there's so many reasons that I run Live It Now, and it's so meaningful to me, and I'd love to share that story with you. And so check out our website, liveitnow.com.au, or my other website, yourfuturenow.com.au. I'd love to see you there. We basically run it every month. We run it virtually free for the community. And as I said to you before, 90% of success is showing up. And I know some of you are listening to this, you're probably feeling really motivated and going, yeah, this is something I'm going to do. One of the reasons that I created my brands, Your Future Now, Live It Now, Wealth Now, Health Now, Relationships Now, is because the key is the now moment. The key is making that decision right now. And so I challenge you to get out there and live it now. And check us out. Check out liveitnow.com.au. Help us raise some money for this beautiful charity, Bear Cottage, and you may just transform every aspect of your life in the process. I hope you enjoyed today's disruption session. Please connect to our website, get onto our mailing list, and there's going to be a whole lot more great content coming to you with these disruption sessions. I'll catch you later. Thank you.